All right, hey y'all, we're back for part 2 of my video in reference to the signs and their rulerships and the planets. So continuing on with the moon. Now the moon rules Cancer, and you know, it's very fitting because Cancer is an emotional, sensitive, intuitive sign, mothering, nurturing, warm, cozy, fuzzy, things of that nature. But you also have to take, like I said before, the rulerships with a grain of salt, because we know that since Cancer energy is very emotional. I stress the fact that I say energy instead of Cancer specific, because you can be a Cancer and because of other factors in your chart, you may not have these attributes. So Cancer energy is very emotional and moody and can be very all over the place. So they can be very destructive, especially if you have a moon in Cancer, because remember, the moon is ruling your emotions, it's ruling your instincts. So that's like immediate, like somebody says something to me, how I feel about this, either I'm going to cry, either I'm going to punch them in the face, either I'm going to yell or scream, either I'm going to break stuff like that. It's like the moon is just like, you know, crazy up there in Cancer. But if it's aspected well, I'm sure that Cancer moon be fine. But just beware. So the moon rules Cancer, and it is exalted in Taurus. So I'm going to do the top. So it is exalted in Taurus, and because the moon has to deal with your like essential needs, it has to deal with what you need to feel comfortable. Taurus is the sign of like comfort and having like comfortable surroundings, you know, good food, good music, nice furniture, and things like that. The moon is very happy in Taurus because it's a very like stable place, again, depending upon factors in your chart. But for the most part, the moon in Taurus is chill. It's like nice and calm, cool and collected. Like literally that is like the moon in Taurus, as long as it's not negatively affected. And of course the moon in Taurus would, you know, gravitate towards the arts. You know, it's still, you know, Venusian and all of that type of stuff. So just beautiful things, beautiful surroundings, the comforts of life. And that's why the moon rules Cancer, because Cancer has to deal with the comforts of life as well. Taurus and Cancer are their energies are very similar in terms of their emotional needs. So it would make sense that the that the moon rules Cancer and that it's exalted in Taurus, because, you know, it's something that's, it's a similar type of need for them. And remember, like I mentioned before, the moon also represents the mother. So you can kind of get an idea of where someone's moon placement is to kind of get an idea of what their mother was like, in a sense. I'm not going to get all into that in this video, but that's something to think about again when you're thinking about transits and things of that nature, and you're looking at your chart in synastry as well. Well, not really synastry with the mother per se, but more or less when you're looking at your own natal chart and transits. So with that being said, since the moon is akin to Cancer, then that means that its energies are similar to the 4th house. And once again, just because your moon is in the 4th house doesn't necessarily mean that it's a happy place. But the 4th house, again, does represent, you know, emotional security. It's very insular, so it's about the subconscious. It's introverted in that 4th house. It's all about home and family, early upbringing, your parents, particularly your father, because that has to do with your foundation. It does have to do, you know, the 4th house does have to deal with like ancestry and like lineage and, you know, race, culture, things of that nature, things that are passed down from generations. So that's something else to keep in mind when it comes to the 4th house. So the 4th house meaning is a little bit different from Cancer and the moon itself. Like I said before, that's kind of why you have to take it as a grain of salt. But the moon, for the most part, will go within reason. It's relative to the 4th house. So since the moon is rules Cancer, that means that it is in detriment in Capricorn. Capricorn is the opposite sign. And it makes a lot of sense because the moon is about your emotional needs, like what makes you feel all warm and fuzzy and cozy. And Capricorn energy it can be rather cold. It can be rather unemotional, but Capricorn energy can keep their emotions bottled up so much that they're not able to let it out. Cancer energy will let it out. That's what I'm saying. Capricorn energy can drive themselves crazy, keeping their emotions locked up inside. So that's why the moon is not really a good place for Capricorn, because it's not good for you to suppress those feelings and those emotions. It can just turn very negative in the end. So that's and Capricorn energy is kind of dark as well. Not to say the moon energy is kind of dark, because you think about the moon coming out at night and everything. It's like the light at night. Even Cancer energy can be kind of dark, even when you're talking about the fourth house. But Capricorn energy is very materialistic. They're not really about the spiritual, and it's just very difficult to kind of crack like a Capricorn. They're stoic, and it's difficult to kind of get inside there. But the difference between like a Capricorn moon and like an Aquarius moon is that eventually that Capricorn will show some emotion. That Aquarius may not ever show emotion, because Aquarians are very emotionless. But we're not really going to get into that, because we're only talking about the rulers, where it's exalted, the detriment, and the fall. But just kind of give that example of Capricorn. So that those emotions, they're in there. If you know somebody with a Capricorn moon, be like, please cry. Let your emotions out. Let them scream. Let them bounce off. Like, they need to do it. But let them handle their business first. Don't make them do that before they handle their business, because you know Capricorn energy is all about their business, so they need to take care of that first. So since the moon is exalted in Taurus, that means that it is in its fall in Scorpio. And again, like Capricorn, it makes a lot of sense, because Scorpio is a very dark sign. It's a dark energy and everything like that. So when your moon is in Scorpio, honey, your emotions are like really rampant all over the place. Like a moon in Scorpio, I am scared of you. Just understand that a moon in Scorpio, when we're talking about like the dark-sided manifestations, you need to look out more for a moon in Scorpio than a sun in Scorpio. Okay, this is why it's important to look up somebody's chart. Okay, because if you see that they got a Scorpio moon, it's not to say that it couldn't work if you have other, if you have compatibility and stuff like that, but you might really want to look at it and see if they're on the dark side of manifestation of a Scorpio moon. Because if you think about all like the negative aspects of Scorpio energy, criminality, just the dark side, uncovering, things beneath the surface, it does rule, things that are interesting and positive to me, like, it generates support. It's very encouraging, Scorpio energy is. But when we're talking about the moon and we're talking about the emotions like Capricorn, Scorpio tends to keep it all inside. And that's really not good for a Scorpio, because when they keep their emotions inside, then that means that they're reacting in other ways. There's other things that they're doing, more likely on the dark side, that is, that's kind of combating those emotions that they're holding inside. So remember that Moon and Scorpio, very, like sexual people, very mysterious even, would be very much into the occult, possibly. And astrology is a form of the occult. If you look up the occult, all it means is the knowledge of the hidden. It's all in the way you use it and things like that. But a Scorpio moon will probably be more likely, especially a female, to deal with like hoodoo, and like if you're on the dark side, doing like, negative type of spells. But remember, the moon represents the womb for a woman. So it could denote, if you have a moon in Scorpio, that's already in its fall. That's already like a challenging moon to have. So you may have issues with the womb, or like getting pregnant or having children. Same with the moon in Capricorn. So that could also have to do with like breastfeeding and things like that. Because I believe the moon rules the breast, because Cancer rules the breasts. So double check that, and I'll put a little blurb up on there if I'm wrong about that. But the moon in Scorpio, not particularly a happy place, but extremely intuitive, like ridiculously psychic. Like, these people can read people like none other. So be careful with a moon in Scorpio. You know, they very interesting people. I would say. I don't really know a lot of moon and Scorpios. Not that I know of, because I don't know everybody's chart that's around me. But I would imagine that it's not a dull moment with a moon and Scorpio. I think that that's safe to say. So next we have Mercury. So we're getting into the actual planets. So we took care of the luminaries, and now we're getting into the actual planets. So we have Mercury. And Mercury actually rules two signs. So Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo. So Mercury is the sign of communication. It's the sign of, planet rather, of short distance travel. It's the planet of the media, of siblings. It's the planet of early childhood education. Remember, I mentioned like the fourth house akin to Cancer is like early upbringing, home upbringing. Well, Mercury, which is akin to the third house, is the sign of like early childhood education. So think like K through 12, that type of thing. So what I can't stress enough, though, is communication, 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 how you communicate. So if your Mercury is jacked up, then you may not be that great of a communicator. So with a Mercury in Gemini and a Mercury in Virgo, particularly Mercury in Gemini, though, you're very, quick-witted, you're quick on your feet, you could kind of sell ice to an Eskimo, like that Mercury in Gemini, because you're just very quick with your words. You are very talkative. I just want to put that out there that I am a Mercury in Gemini. Most people may not know that, because I'm a Taurus sun and a Scorpio rising, so I'm very, and I forgot to mention that I'm a Libra moon, so I had to put that in there. But yes, I do have a Mercury in Gemini. So, the media, hey, YouTube. So makes me very talkative and wanting to communicate, knowledge to the world. It's all about what you know. It's about, cell phones, talking on the phone, texting people. And when you're talking about Mercury and you're talking about Mercury retrograde, like anything that has to do with communication, when it's a Mercury retrograde, it can be fucked up. So, there could be car accidents, your car could break down, your computer could not act right. Why did I even say that? Your phone could not act right. Any type of like electronic something that has to do with communicating with people can like malfunction in some type of way during a Mercury retrograde. That's why it's such a big thing. That's why, even people who don't even know about astrology are familiar with Mercury retrogrades, because it's a big deal that affects like everybody. So right now, as I speak, Mercury is in retrograde in Leo. So good God. Okay. So, Mercury also rules the hands. So a lot of like Geminis and Virgos, particularly Mercury and Geminis or Virgos, will talk with their hands, as I'm doing right now. I can't even help it. They just want to know. So their Mercury energy is very inquisitive. It's going to ask a lot of questions and things like that. But from a Virgo perspective, it's going to be more like analytical, like how can I use this information to benefit me? Whereas Mercury and Gemini may just be like, I just want to know. Like, I just want to know what this means. Like, I just want to know for my own personal benefit. I may or may not do anything with it, but I just want to know. A Virgo is going to want to know, and they're going to want to do something with it. You know what I'm saying? So just be aware that the Mercury in Gemini person or the Mercury in Virgo person will be the person to ask you a lot of questions and may get on your nerves because they talk a lot and they ramble, but they mean well and they're good communicators usually. So that's Mercury in the signs that it rules.